Back with another episode of Circle of Trades. I'm Todd Studer, and in the studio with the Hawkeye over his head and the logo over his shoulder, it's Travis Waldstein, Aire Serv Heating and Air Conditioning and Waldstein Plumbing. You got the Aire Serv jacket, you got the Waldstein plumbing hat. Hawkeye's over. Is there anything you're not representing right now?
The one thing you can't really see is my Packers.
Oh, there you go.
I got the Packers, so don't worry. It was a great football weekend last week. Packers beat the Lions. Hawkeyes beat the Huskers. You know, I mean, life is good, and I'm so glad that my tube heater picked the one day that it never sings, to sing like the show choir that it is. So in the background is fantastic. Yeah. By the way, your tube heater is not supposed to sound like this, but I have supposed to be an isolator in there that has evidently worked its way out. So this is not how to do heating and air conditioning 101.
As we are recording this, we have had a cold snap hit, and yes, we're in the middle of below freezing temperatures for an extended period of time, I think for the first time this season. So has that increased the call frequency? People finding out their furnace isn't working the way they want it to?
It has. Absolutely. Actually, later this week, by the time this hits, will be gone. But they're talking the first temperatures of either 0 or below 0, possibly coming into Thursday this week. So, I mean, it's the time of year. It's December. It does not seem like December in my mind. I feel like we should be in July or August. That's one of the. I mean, well, my mind's in August, but we're in the end of the year. But yeah. So it's the time of year. Everybody's been scheduled maintenance, and we're still doing maintenance. But yeah, this time where you find out you have problems, we've had a couple, I call extreme repairs. A guy who's got a 30-year-old steam boiler. Steam boiler gave out the other day. I know we're dealing with that. We're dealing with some other replacement stuff. So, it's been, like I said, we've been busy. It's been good. I can't complain. It's the time of year where if you haven't took your hoses off the faucets yet, yeah, it's probably time.
It's past time.
Yeah, it's past time.
Yeah.
Well, we went from decent weather. I mean, 2 weeks ago, people sent guard hoses out to where it's ground's for. This is when the ground's going to freeze solid, and yeah, I mean, welcome to winter, folks. This is why we live in this beautiful part of the country, so we can enjoy winter. So
I've actually saw a video earlier today, and again, as we're recording it, about ice on Manawa, and saying that he didn't see any open water anymore, but he was expecting that in staying below freezing, probably 10 days away from being able to be on it. But that's early, I think, for Manawa.
Growing up in Northwest Iowa and being close to Lake Okoboji and Lost Island Lake up there, I got to tell you what, you ain't paid me enough money to walk on an ice on a lake. I'm sorry. It to me, it's like having the lid open in a freaking porta potty. That is just a way to drop your phone in the damn porta potty. If you walk on a lake where there's less than a foot of ice, it's just a good chance of me falling in the lake. You know what I got zero interest in doing?
Yeah.
Neither.
Well, yeah, up in Okoboji, every year when they have the winter games, some knothead is going to drive his car underneath a bridge on the ice where the ice is always thinner and goes in. It happens every year. And even with the signs and all the warnings and everything else, people think that it's just a road and it's wide open, and then go out and, do donuts or whatever it is that they want to do. And no, I'm with you. I don't get out on the ice. I know I have friends that ice fish, and they're smiling pretty big when they show the pictures, but it's just not my thing.
No, absolutely not. Yeah, you're not going to get me. Listen, to me, it's not whatever. But yeah, we got to talk about me falling through the lake or anything like that. But those couple of phobias that I have. So dropping my phone or my keys in the porta potty and falling in the lake. So that ice, it's like, no, not good. So here's what I can tell you: do not do when you're getting ready to go home from a season of football camping. Do not lose your keys. So
Did you lose your keys?
I'll tell you this story. Oh, so Sunday last was a week ago Sunday after the Iowa Michigan State game. So loading up the camper, getting ready to start the truck. I had everything ready to go. I reached down my pocket. I couldn't feel my keys. I'm like, where are they? I looked underneath the truck, around the truck, by the tailgate. I had dropped the tailgate because I had to put my hitch on my truck. Had to unhook the sewer lines and the water lines, so I had to do all that stuff. I looked all over. Spent an hour and 20 minutes. I raked the leaves. I called OnStar. The OnStar told me, well, we can tow your truck in, but unless you have the key, we can't start it. Blah, 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 blah. I'm like, oh, I can start with my remote, but I can't on my phone, but I can't drive the damn thing. Not a happy camper. Well, after having that call, after an hour, 20 minutes, I said, let's start back over. I went back to grab where I dropped my tailgate and I grabbed my hitch, put it on there. And my tailgate has got like a little step it drops. I got a fancy truck for all you that know. Yes, I use it hard, but I bought it with what I bought. I said I'm getting everything. It's got this step. My keys, when I was reaching to grab my hitch, fell in my pocket. There's this little notch, and my keys were sitting right there. Hour and 20 minutes, hour and a half. Oh, I was livid. So didn't call anybody, didn't talk to anybody halfway home. They asked, how you doing? I said, well, considering I spent an hour and a half looking for my keys, I'm doing just fine. They're like, what? Why didn't you call? Well, that isn't going to do me any good. I got to find them. So moral to the story, if you have one of these where you have the keyless remote and all that stuff, I don't know. I'm rethinking that whole thought process. I got a spare set of keys, and I'm like, you know what? Maybe, just maybe, I want to keep that spare set a hell of a lot closer to my truck, or buy a third set and put them in my toolbox or something. Because I am not going through that again. That was terrible. So
that makes sense. That makes sense.
So that's the funny for the day. Yeah, Travis does dumb stuff once in a while. It's kind of like going to Mexico and forgetting to take underwear, or I've done some stuff. Yeah, during COVID. So we got to go to Mexican Walmart with the freaking federales there holding guns on us while we're in there trying to find underwear, or leaving your belt at home. And when you're a large man and you're in Mexico and you need a size 44 belt, guess what? There's a lot of big people in Mexico, but there are a lot of people my size. And finding a belt that size, we spent about 3 hours doing that too. So yeah.
I talked with a guy that he ended up moving to the Czech Republic, and I was talking to him about what it's like to be an expat and all of that. And he said it's altogether different going shopping for souvenirs versus shopping for underwear. It's a completely different experience when you are in a foreign country.
Oh, I don't doubt that.
And what you're saying is 100% agreement with that. Well, we never got your opinions and tips now that the Hawkeye season is over, pending the bowl game that will be coming up. I know my thoughts on it. I'm curious how you felt about the season this year.
Good team, not great team. A lot of close losses. Indiana, Oregon, USC, Iowa State, you really the Indiana game is the one that really hurts because you feel like, man, you had them on the ropes and they're the number 2 team in the country. Even Oregon take the lead 2 minutes ago, and Oregon made a hell of a play. You can't take away from what the other teams did, so you have to give them the credit. You're just like, man, 1 or 2 of them and I was in the college football playoff, but it wasn't meant to be. I think Iowa's quarterback room's a lot better. I'm really excited about what the future brings. I think their offensive line is going to probably go through some changes here. I think we have a quarterback in the room. For all you that's waiting for Kirk to retire, I don't think Kirk's going anywhere for 3 or 4 years. From conversations I had this spring, and from what I see, there's nothing that makes me say, with where we're at on that. So to answer your question, overall, very happy. I'm not super thrilled. Pretty said I would love to see him get to 10 wins. but it wasn't like they got blown out. They didn't have a Michigan State game. They didn't have the UCL game like they did the year before. They pounded Nebraska. Iowa State game, it's the one game where you kind of go, but it's kind of like the Indiana game. Iowa State made the play when they needed to. That game might have been won or lost in the first quarter. A couple of these games were won and lost in the first quarter by small errors. You just kind of go. So it's a 4-quarter game, but you can lose a game in the first quarter. So, but no, optimistic. I didn't throw the ball quite as much as we wanted to, but it seemed to get better and better as the year went. So all in all, very happy. Wish Weegan had another year, but unfortunately he don't.
Yeah, I'm of the belief, and I've seen a lot online, a lot of comments, people talking about it, that Iowa is just right there to be a playoff team, and if only things had gone a different way. Well, my opinion is playoff teams win those games.
Mm-hmm.
And
you're right,
because that's what Oregon did. Oregon's a playoff team. Mm-hmm. And they won the games, not just the one against Iowa, but they also won others as well.
They beat USC. Yeah. They beat. They won. I mean, they lost. What they lost? Who did they lose? Who did Oregon? They lost to. Who did Oregon lose to? Indiana.
Yeah. They lost bad to Indiana.
Yeah. Indiana took the game, and like I said, Iowa's right there. I mean, that's the thing. They're close. It just was not. They're there this year, but it's. Yeah, so hopefully I think Weegan will win the Jet Award again. I hope Logan Jones wins the Outland. I mean, he's going to be the first team All Big Ten. I don't know if he's going to be rated the top center in the country. Him and a couple other guys are going to be pretty close, but hopefully being a Council Bluffs kid, he wins it. Hopefully he gets an opportunity to go make some money for him and his new wife in the NFL, and then,
you know how much Green Bay loves taking linemen from Iowa.
Well, that's all right. I'd be okay. Right now, they got a right guard as a center, so there you go. Logan look good at green and gold, I have to admit. So
yeah, and I mean, obviously, it's going to depend on where everybody finishes up and the draft order and all of that stuff. But I could see Green Bay giving a really hard look at Logan Jones.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think he's going to get drafted high. He probably went from a 5th to 6th round pick to probably an early second-day pick. I don't think they don't draft centers in the first round. They just unless you're just really good. But I see early second-day round, probably early second round, maybe third round. But yeah, thing is, them contracts are also guaranteed now. So where a 5th round is not a guaranteed contract, where if you get a 2nd round or even 3rd round contract now, huge difference of where you're at. So that next year, I think we'll pay some huge dividends for him. So I'm pretty excited about that. So,
well, before we actually move into stuff that has to do with Circle of Trades, do you want to give your opinion, since as we're recording this, it's all over the news right now of what happened with Lane Kiffin and the way that he jumped ship from Ole Miss over to LSU? Do you have any thoughts on that, or is that just SEC and you don't care?
Well, I would agree with that statement. It's SEC, it sucks. But here's the deal. There's one team I do like in the SEC, and if it's one, it is LSU. And I could not root for LSU with Brian Kelly as head coach. So, for the football fans, I understand why the fans are mad. I understand why everybody's mad. But it's also a business. It's no different than an employer. If I got an employee that, hey, he's been talking to XYZ company and he comes back and talks to me, well, obviously we're not doing something right. Or maybe we can't offer something that they're offering. Maybe it's just oversight. Maybe it's whatever. I don't know what it is. You know what I'm saying? So, so I look at that whole conversation and I look at that discussion and I kind of go, okay, what are we missing here? So, and if he's going to move on, I mean, you've made a decision, you're moving on. As far as them coaching the team, listen, there's some places that'll let you coach the bowl game and whatever. And I think that is, if it's a good relationship, I don't think it's a problem.
Scott Frost in Central Florida the first time around would be an example of that.
Exactly. If you got a good relationship with the AD and and it's amicable and you understand. But when you're Old Miss and you're number 6, 7 team in the country, and you're leaving to go to essentially one of your SEC, I don't want to say arch rivals, but one of your top 5 rivals in the history of the conference.
Yeah.
And you're saying, oh, by the way, I'm going to take half my coaches if I take this. You know what? If I'm the athletic director, I'd tell him to get the hell out of Dodge, too. And if you're Lane Kiffin, you really shouldn't have any expectation of it. Listen, LSU and Alabama, them schools, Texas A&M, you can make an argument. All the Texas A&M has not got the history that them two schools do. Ton of talent. Alabama and LSU are going head-to-head with talent. Saban left LSU, went to the NFL, guys had handed to him, and he went to Alabama. And he won one national championship at LSU, and he won 6 at Alabama or whatever it was. If you go down there and you're a good coach, you're going to win. You're going to win national titles. The problem is with LSU, they run you off after 2 years like the rest of the SEC does if you're terrible. So do I think he'll win there? Yes. Will he stay? I don't think Alabama's a better job. I don't think there's probably a better job. I think there's equal jobs. I think Alabama's an equal job because of the money that's involved. I would say, A&M, and as far as the SEC, I think you take Ohio State, maybe Michigan. There's not a ton of schools in the country that have the talent and the resources and the players in that vicinity that they do. I guess you could throw Notre Dame, but I don't know. I'm not a Notre Dame fan. I think Notre Dame should play in the Big Ten. I think they'd be the 4th best team every year, and that's why they don't join the Big Ten. That's my opinion. I think it ended up. There's gonna be some people that are mad, but you know what? You gotta do what's right for you and your family. And if going to LSU is the right decision and it takes you in your next step, who can say? Harbaugh went back to Michigan, damn near got fired, hired Connor Stalions, cheated his way to 2 national championships. And look, he's not the coach of the Chargers, who's probably going to make the playoffs again this year. So, you never know. Maybe Lane Kiffin makes it back to the NFL. His dad was in the NFL for a long time. So, it's a business decision. Do I like it for college football? Yes and no, but change happens in football all the time. They'll fire you all right away. Kids have to stay. The money that's involved, money makes it messy, but it's business. That's how I equate to it.
It also puts not so much LSU, but really Lane Kiffin under a microscope. And he is now the story next year. Wow. And the press is going to be crawling all over him and hyper analyzing every single thing that happens. And if he doesn't win a national championship next year, then the Ole Miss fans are going to be, saying, see, he couldn't do it there either. And he left Tennessee badly. It's just kind of like the next thing with him. So I honestly, and I'm with you, I don't fault the man for wanting to take the job. I personally think that thing about, hey, I want to coach the team through the bowl games. He knew. That was just a PR move.
Yeah. He would have liked to under the right circumstance, but that was going to happen. Because I think Ole Miss wins the national title? No. I think the final straw for him was last year when Ole Miss got snubbed. And I think he says if it's LSU, LSU's in.
Yeah. Well,
and you know what? And do you blame him at that? I don't. You have to tell your kids that somebody feels you're not good enough to play college football play because you're ranked number 11th or 13th or whatever it was, and Alabama beat you out or whoever it was that beat him out last year. And I'm sure he probably said, you know what? It's time to move. Probably time to move on. So
and there are some schools out there that are going to have good years, like Ole Miss had this year. But just like you said, Travis, that there are blue chip schools. That's just reality.
Mm-hmm. And LSU is one of them.
And LSU is one of them. And there are schools out there, though, that think that because they've had a good year, that they are now one of them. Mm-hmm. And that's not the case. Clemson comes to mind.
Yeah,
You know,
I think Clemson's kind of fell off that boat here a little bit with Dabo, but
now I
yeah.
will also say this, and this is a little bit defending Nebraska fans, that they used to be one of those schools.
Oh
And
yeah, they
and
used to.
and for the most part, the aging fan base still thinks that they are, and things just aren't going well, and they need to get back there again. But it's been long enough now
Yeah.
that is just no longer the case. And now it's going to be a lot tougher to break into that field, and especially playing in the Big Ten. I don't see Nebraska ever being at the level of Ohio State and Michigan. I don't see that.
They'd like to think they will
Yeah.
be, but I mean, it's just the recruiting landscape. I mean, when you're in Ohio, in Pennsylvania, I mean, you throw Penn State in there. Penn State I mean, Joe Pa won a couple titles. He had his issues. James Franklin couldn't get it done. I mean, frankly, if you're with the Big Ten now and Oregon and USC and Washington, I mean, Ohio State's probably going to be in the top one or two. As long as Phil Knight's alive, Oregon's going to be in the top one or two. Um, you know, the rest of them, Michigan's going to be there, USC is going to be there. Penn State, was supposed to be there this year. Nebraska has. I'm not saying Nebraska can't get back there. I mean, I was gone 11-1, 12-0. What got close to the playoff. Blah 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 blah. It's tough. It's tough, and then when you get there, how do you maintain that consistency? It's hard, especially when you're in a state like Nebraska. No offense, but there's not a ton of talent, and you got schools like Alabama, Iowa, Iowa State, K State that are coming in, Florida State, that are taking your top athletes out of your own state because you choose not to recruit the state. You want to be a national brand. I mean, Nebraska used to be known as a school that they would bring in kids, but they had a lot of local kids, and I think their philosophy is changing. I think they're missing out. Not that there's not a lot of Nebraska kids. I'm sure there is. I don't know Nebraska's roster enough to know, but yeah, if you take a look at it, um, yeah, but that's with any school. There's not a ton of kids at Iowa. I mean, same thing. Iowa, Iowa is within 3 hours of Chicago. They're within 4 hours of St. Louis. Yeah, I mean, Nebraska's 3 hours, from Kansas City, but I mean, there's some decent talent down in Kansas City, but you got Kansas, K State, Missouri. Same thing in the Big Ten. You got Wisconsin, you got Michigan, you got Notre Dame, but you have to be close to a talent base, and that's the one thing Nebraska's not. And when you're not keeping the best kids home, that's what's going to make it tough. You can go recruit California, you can go recruit. They lost Texas when they left the Big 12. They lost Texas, and honestly, my feeling is, if you were in Nebraska and you're in the Big 12, you could tell a kid that every other year you were going to probably play 2 games in the state of Texas, and they're going to be close to home. And I don't give a shit how much money they're making. That's important to an 18 to 23-year-old kid. They can play close to home. Family can see them, whatever else. It's not a bad drive. I mean, it's 8 hours from Dallas to Lincoln. And, and Nebraska, when they left the Big 10, let the Big 12 go to the Big 10, that was part of the conversation.
Yeah.
So, and that's just the reality of it. And so, maybe Rule will figure it out. I don't think there's a direct answer, because you have to rebuild them connections. It took Kirk Ferentz 4 years to turn around Iowa to get him to play in 2002, to play for the Big Ten championship. In year 4, Nebraska, you can be fired. Into year 3, Iowa's 7-5, and Iowa's fading. Well, hell, you listen to half the Nebraska fans. Rule went 7-5 this year. Could go 8-5, and they want them fired.
Yeah.
I mean, I think what's your expectation here? Okay, you got drugged by Penn State at Iowa at the end of the year. Well, guys, I don't know. Your quarterback got hurt. That kind of sucks. That's kind of a bad deal.
Yeah.
You had a kid like that. Latif was Ray Harburg, who probably could have played for you, but he's your tight end now. You decide not to hand it to Emmett Johnson. Emmett Johnson's probably the best back in the Big Ten this year, but I digress. So,
Well, there we go. So we've made it 25 minutes into a show, and we haven't talked about the trades hardly at all. But
No, well, yeah,
it's all good.
yeah.
We're at the end of the year. You working on stuff for the business? I mean, how much time do you spend preparing for 2026 before it gets here?
Well, you have to plan, because not to plan ahead is to fail. I do believe that. For me, I kind of run through stuff in my mind. Now, I got a real good idea with where my financials at. I know where my end of the year's at. I know what we got going on. I know what we got coming up. I know what, just as far as, just as far as the business is concerned, I know where I feel with things. Um, so a lot of it's touchy feel. What do you see for trends? I mean, right now, this last year, 2025, I think if anybody says in the trades it's been a great year, and there's been people that have had good years but haven't had great years. Some of it's weather related, some of it's work related, some of it's people related, that kind of stuff. So, so you have to tailor that. What is material cost and what is labor cost, and all this stuff has gone up. If you know what I'm saying. So, so that has definitely changed as far as with where we're at. So, you know, so it's, you have to tailor it, and you have to put it on paper, and you have to project. For me, once we get into May, June, and July, it's easy. My problem is the next January through March and into April. That's where things kind of get whatever with me. Um, so I have to plan for that. And then, I want to be able to plan 3 years and 5 years. 3 years, I can plan. 5 years, a little bit difficult right now because of some of my, some of my franchise stuff. Um, so, um, do I say, so I have to, you got to take a look where your numbers at. You got to take a look where people are performing, not performing. Do you need to make changes? Do you need to upgrade certain things? What's your pain points in the business? So I think you have to take a look at all of that and then put it down on paper. And I don't want to say hope, because hope is not a you know hope is not a business.
No, there's not much strategy and hope.
Yeah,
You're right.
You can wish in one hand and poop in the other, and I can tell you which one's probably going to happen first. So,
it's your show. You can say shit, right?
yeah, no, that is true. I'm trying to be politically correct. I'm trying to be a nicer Travis today. So don't ruin it, Todd. So, no, but you have to just an educated guess, and you have to make some assumptions. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough, but if you don't do it, you'll prepare to fail. And I think that's the biggest thing if you're a business owner. And what's the industry like you're in right now? What are you seeing? Is AI taking over your business? I know in the trades right now, pretty much, HVAC, plumbing, and heating. There's a lot of private equity. Oh, want to buy this and buy that. And there's one guy that I found. I don't remember his name, but he's on LinkedIn, and I'm not a big LinkedIn guy. Not a big LinkedIn guy at all. But there's one guy that is kind of already kind of saying, hey, when is the bubble going to burst on private equity? And, because private equity, if you can go in and sell your business and you want to get out of it and you want to make all this money, you could do it. I saw it happen in late 90s and early 2000s when Service Experts and Comfort Systems USA, there was like 4 or 5 what they call consolidators at that time. They weren't private equity. Basically, companies came in, buy up these other companies. We're gonna take their people, implement our systems. We're gonna make more money. And God, well, 3 years later, most of our brokers struggling because they took away what makes that company individual. Um, so so when you tailor a business, what does that look like? Do you want to sell out? I think you have to be willing to have that conversation. Now, this guy says he thinks the bubble's going to burst with private equity. I agree with him. I am not a fan of private equity in the trades. I think there's places that it's worked, but it's taken a long time for people to work. And at the end of the day, it's a people business. And if you don't take care of people, it's a problem. I mean, it's a huge issue. So, that's what I would say about it. And uh, but you have to, you have to pay for it. If you're not going to do it, how are you going to counteract that? What are you going to do for the meantime in marketing? You get super aggressive with marketing. Well, marketing costs money, and there's a fine line. Can you spend 12% and get more than you can with spending 4 or 5% of marketing? Is your business good enough to where you can spend no money on marketing? What is your labor pool where you need to be? Do you have the right people in the right seats? Is your CSRs, doing what you need to do? What kind of trends are you seeing in your clientele right now? I could tell you that, for us, one of the areas I'm looking at pretty hard is this duct cleaning. We offer it, we like to do it, but it's not where I want duct cleaning to be. I'll just be transparent about it. If I had that truck going 5 days a week with two guys just on duct cleaning, I'd do it. I would do it all day long. Then what do I hire an operations manager? Frankly, my best person for it is running the plumbing company. The second best person is still Marine Corps, probably out in Yuma, Arizona for the next 18 months. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I don't know if anybody's going to be happy taking orders from a 23-year-old, don't know his head from what, but he's probably from a logistics and is probably the most qualified of anybody I know to do it, So, those are discussions that we're having in the business. Is there someone from the outside? Unfortunately, you have to spend money to make money, but you can't just spend money like you're a drunk sailor at the bar in Tijuana. You can't do that in business. So I think you have to just kind of take a look. What are your pain points? What has changed your business for the positive? What has changed your business for the negative? And negative isn't all bad. Sometimes you got to go through negative before you see some really positive results. So I have no issue with that. But I think you need to be cognizant enough with your business when planning and what you want to do. It's okay. We're going to plan, but what are we going to do to implement these systems? Um, and that's been some of the struggle that we've worked at. But the one thing it takes, if you don't plan to do it, is the plan that fails. So and then put the numbers down to paper, and then what does it look like for 2026? Like I said, for me, January, February, March is kind of like for survival, and of course, February and March is always okay. My anniversary, birthdays, all this other stuff. And you know what? If I could be closed for 2 months, I mean, this is my show and I run a business, but I'm not going to lie. February and March, if I could close for 2 months and open back up April 1st and just like nothing happened, I'd be the happiest person alive, because everybody has that business time of year where your business just stinks, because of the time of year or things happen or whatever else. Those are my 2 months. And it's also when all this other supposed to be fun stuff, so all it does is give me heartburn and make me not sleep for 2 months. That's why we opened up a plumbing business, so I would stop having all this damn heartburn.
Well, I will say this, and this is not my analogy. This was told to me by somebody else, but and this is kind of like in bike racing. Even the most finely tuned Italian racing bicycle will eventually coast to a stop if you stop pedaling.
Mm-hmm.
And just because things are going well is not a time to stop pedaling. Mm-hmm. And when you talk about those months where things are really tough, that's your uphill. Mm-hmm. And that is actually, even though you're not making the progress, and again, I'm preaching to the choir here, and I know nothing about your business, but what I do know is that a lot of similarities from what you do and what I do, there's a lot of similarities there, completely different products, completely different business models, but there's some things that are very identical to that. And if things are really tough, that's when you can actually put some separation there, because effort means more in those times.
Yeah.
And so let's get you some antacids and see if we can't.
Yeah. No, like I said, well, half of it when I was younger was sleep apnea. Now that I know I got sleep apnea, I've had it for years. I wear my machine. I don't have near as much sleep apnea. Doesn't mean I don't have sleepless nights. So,
oh, definitely.
But if you're not a business owner, you want to be able to sleep every night. But there's things that keep you up, and it just makes you think.
I had it last night. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, but that's why you plan, so you can try to limit them nights and you can plan. But I mean, when you're planning on furnaces breaking, ACs breaking, and you being the person that they're going to call and having do business, I think you have to take a look at, what are you doing? I think, are you doing something as an individual that's right or it's wrong? I've got no filter. There's no secret about that if you've listened to my podcast. So,
or just had lunch with you.
Yeah, had lunch with me. You know exactly what I said. That's why I don't make a very good politician, which we'll jump into that here in just a moment, by the way. So, but you have to be real. And the thing is, business is a lot like, that's why I like football so much, sports football. I think it's taking what you do, if you're watching football, tackling, blocking, fundamentals, if you ever get a chance to talk to a high level football coach, anybody can teach you the wrap. Anybody can teach you just to throw a basic football, right? Just the basic of football. But there's finite skills, and it's not the big stuff. It's the little stuff. You talk about hitting a guy on the inside shoulder versus the outside shoulder, because if you hit him here, it does this on the play. It's understanding the little things that can take your business from being good to great, and capitalizing on them opportunities. The guys that study film, the guys that understand what's going on. I'm not a big reader. Matter of fact, if you ask me to read, I mean, an email and a tweet or once in a while, I'm not a big reader. I know some people are big readers. Maybe I should find some audiobooks or something.
It works for me.
I was gonna say, because I can't sit down and read. It just drives me freaking nuts. But
I finally read the book Think and Grow Rich, but it was an audiobook. I listened to it.
Hey.
And so that was how I did it, because I didn't have the time or the focus or anything else. But that, depending on how much windshield time you have, it does work.
Yeah. If you got 4 hours of windshield time, no one's bothering you.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Kind of like working at home some days. No one's bothering you. You get a lot of stuff done. Oh, like this morning when I shot novel thoughts. So, but no, if you sit down and you take a look at it, I think you have to. It's working on the small stuff that can improve your bit, and you should always be aware. Once you figure out one pain point, what's the next pain point or issue for what that is, and working through what that is that can take your business to the next level. Is it people? Is it training? Is it, maybe you're doing jobs that maybe you shouldn't be doing. You've gotten bigger, but has bigger actually given you the results you want, or is it giving you more headache? I mean, there's pros and cons to a lot of this stuff. Is less more? You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, I that's why you plan, it gives you a place point, but then from there, I think you really learn to tweak it in, tie it down. Are you capitalized enough? Do you have enough money? Do you have enough whatever sitting around to where if you need to do something, you can do something, if you know what I'm saying?
I would say, and I know this for me, and I believe it is for you too, because I've heard some of your customers talk about this, that when your staff and, one of your technicians goes out, the person that they're seeing feels good about that person being there. Mm-hmm. It's about relationship building. That's what it is with me, 100%. And that's what it is with you, and that's what it is with every single business in a market our size. It's about relationship building. And if you put if I put my focus there, then the financials, that's the result of that work.
Yeah.
It's a measuring stick. It cannot be the source. It cannot be, how am I raising revenue and how am I growing that bottom line just to be able to say the number's higher. Then the number's not real because it's not sustainable.
Yeah.
But if I have relationships with people and people know who I am and people know that they can trust me, then that creates a consistently growing business. And as I said, I've heard some of the people that you have as clients talk about, whether it's you or anybody that goes out there, they were happy they were there. They were friendly. They were informative, kept them updated on what was going on. And that, to me, is why you have growing businesses the way that you do.
Yeah. No, but it's still, yeah. So nope, I agree.
Well, before we wrap things up here, you kind of touched on it. Have you ever in your life thought about running for public office? Because it seems I keep hearing it every once in a while that maybe it's at least on your radar right now.
Okay, number one, I'm not going to run for school board.
Okay.
Zero interest. Sorry.
That's a popularity contest. That's not.
Yeah. I'm not running for school board. I live in the county. I like Matt Walsh, but I could, if I could have voted, I wasn't voting for him for a fourth term. Just my opinion. But I am. Here's what if I had nothing better to do, I 100% would do it. I own a heating, air conditioning, plumbing business, take up a lot of my time, but I do. I will tell you that, look at the county stuff, some of the stuff I've gone on that I've seen go, some of the conversations that I've had the last couple of years with county officials. And I've had there's a lot of good people. I've done work for Pot County. So as far as that goes, that's what I'm trying to figure out. But for me, I don't like some stuff that's going on. I don't say that people are doing bad, and I know there's a whole deal with the one sport with Scott Belt and that whole situation. You know what? That'll work itself out. I mean that's something it sucks for everybody. Nobody wants to see that, but I think there's some issues with accountability. I'm not a politician. I mean, I tend to vote conservative, but I also vote, I vote for people and what makes sense, but no, I am giving some thought to actually throwing my hat in the ring for the county board of supervisors possibly. Because there's just some stuff I'm seeing. And if I was going to do something, that'd be the one area to where I feel like we could do, I could be positive and add some stuff too. There's a lot of other good candidates. I'm not a politician. Listen, if you want to go smear me with mud, guess what? All I was going to do is go spend 10 minutes on my Facebook or come have lunch with me. I can dump enough dirt on myself to bury me for a lifetime. But when it comes to business, not just business, but government and how things should be done, a lot of red tape, a lot of blue tape. There's a lot of stuff going on between the city and the county. I don't know. I feel like it's like the worst part about government is when you feel like there's transparency missing. And that's probably the thing. And I'm not saying that they're not having public records, that kind of stuff, because obviously it's there. But it is. But there is. There's county records, there's open door meetings and stuff. But it's what's going on when the cameras are off. What's going on, and so. The problem is it's a part-time job, but realistically, it's not a part-time job. It's a full-time job. Well, guess what? I've already got 2 full-time jobs, realistically. So do I have the time for another one? And if I can't commit to it, but, if people said, hey, they like what I say, and they say, yeah, he might be great, and I say, hey, you suck. And I'm okay with that, too. But I really think there's some things that we could be doing a whole lot better with our county government. And, it's something, at some point you got to give back. And I think this is an area to where, this would be an area where it might make sense for me. So just throwing it out there. If you want to give me some input, but good, bad, or worse, one thing about it, there'd be no filters.
Well, listen, I'll tell you what I think. I mean, number one, if you decided to do that, would be identifying somebody inside of your existing company that can handle some more responsibility.
Yeah,
I'm not saying your entire job, but I am saying that just going to have to take some weight off of you. The other thing is elections are different than having the job.
Yeah.
And that it's a completely different beast. And who I tend to vote for, and this is me, is the people who I feel are being as authentically them as possible. I need to trust who they are. And it's not necessarily about me agreeing with every single issue. It is about me knowing that I know what I'm going to get.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, since day one, from the time that we met, I have always known where you are concerned, where you stand. I don't have to worry that, Travis is going to be in this mood or that mood one day or another, because you don't let that affect decisions.
No.
And my opinion is you would be good at that job. Now, is that something that you want to do? Is that something that fits your schedule and everything else? That can you do that? That's entirely on you to be able to make that decision. But I think you'd be good at it. So that's just me.
And that's why I'm getting some serious thought to it, to be transparent with, for that reason. But
there we go. No announcement, but maybe one day.
Thinking, any input, good, better, indifferent. So it'd be great.
There we go. He is Travis Waldstein, Aire, Serv Heating and Air Conditioning, and Waldstein Plumbing. This is Circle of Trades. We are grateful for the support that we get from all of you. I see subscriber lists growing. I see that coming in because I'm one of the admins on all your channels. So I see that folks coming in and more people are seeing it. So
I'm up from 2 to 3s.
You're doing better than that. But anyway, appreciate your time, sir, and looking forward to seeing what 2026 holds.
Yeah, amen to that. Get your planning done. So.